to start, our driving question is, how might education, particularly science, technology, engineering, math, and computer science education, really play a role in diversifying technology? Now, our panel is really about a discussion, and we're also as useful as we help answer your questions and bring you guys into the conversation as well, because there is brilliance in this room. So to start, by a show of hands, raise your hand if you're on the education side of things, like you're working in an education organization. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. And what happens if you're on the technical side, like you're at a tech company and you're curious about how education can play that role? And what happens if you're a student? There you go. Thank you. Now, again, before we even start with intros, let's have 2 questions from the audience, not to answer, but just so we can frame our conversation around some of your interests. Go ahead.
My question is, how are we addressing the tech awareness language barriers that low-income and minority students experience, such as not knowing what to search for when they go to Google, or just the language to search for when they're trying to figure out what their next step is in tech and entrepreneurship. Like, if you're looking for an incubator because you want to be an entrepreneur, but you go to Google and you type in maybe like startup education, or like, and you end up like at a General Assembly or a Startup Institute instead of in front of like Techstars or something like that.
More? Why are you here? Yes.
I'm interested in future educational models that are scalable. I think we're seeing a lot of innovative things in small scale, but I'm, love to hear a little bit of a discussion around what are the barriers to scale and, what we could be doing to really address the scale issue.
I'd like to know how STEM is going to be included into education, how we're going to expand education given the challenges that were mentioned earlier about the fact that 22% of New Yorkers don't have internet. Probably there's a lot more challenges in other cities, because I think New York actually has a lot more money than other cities. So how do you deal with that on a national level to get us to compete with the Chinese, the Europeans, the Russians, and so on?
So we have language barriers, we have how to scale, and also how to scale internationally. Yeah. All right, so let's start with panelist introductions. We'll keep it short and sweet, your name, what you do, and also why are you passionate about the conversation in education's role in diversifying tech. Let's just go down the line this way.
Good morning. Sorry, let me stay away from it. My name is Joel Duran. I'm a CS student. I'm also an intern at IBM since October. This summer I'll be doing a technical internship with front-end development, and I just graduated from City Tech in Brooklyn and got my associates in computer information systems, and I'll be pursuing a bachelor's in computer science at the University of Albany this next semester.
Good morning. My name is Will Ehrenfeld. I'm a program manager at IBM in corporate citizenship, and my main responsibility is a school called PTech, which stands for Pathways in Technology Early College High School, which produces many phenomenally talented CS students and graduates, including Joel.
So my name is Deborah Chang. I am the co-founder of Nexus Works, where we put entrepreneurs and teachers and students together so they can design together from the beginning and create products that actually solve problems and actually work for users. I'm passionate about this conversation because I come from a teaching background. My students were and I believe in a future where my students can make the life that they want for themselves, including in technology. And if you're creating solutions, I believe that you need to be coming from diverse backgrounds who create solutions for a diverse country.
My name is Zach Sims. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Code Academy. We teach about 25 million people around the world the technology skills they need to find jobs. The question mentioned earlier about scale is one that we think about a lot. I think we're probably the largest technology educator on the planet at this point. So, yeah.
My name is Brady Campbell. I am the Community Partner Manager with Galvanize. We are a learning community for entrepreneurs and engineers, so bringing the boot camp and co-working into urban campuses around the country. We recently announced our location here in New York City, so we're very excited to enter the tech community up here. I specifically work with organizations that are passionate and eager to bring resources and accessibility to underrepresented groups in technology via education. So I'm excited about this because I'm inspired by the lives that I hear transformed by accessibility to coding education and tech education, and hopefully we're going to make that extremely scalable.
Hi, I'm Letitia Thomas. I work for a company called Dev Bootcamp, which is an immersive program for beginners for full stack web development. So students come to us, we teach them how to code, and then they go out and they find jobs as junior web developers. I am a web developer myself, but I am the director of all of our diversity initiatives and programming.
So to start, tell us about the students you serve, who they are, where they come from, particularly from a diversity standpoint, and what do you mean by diversity? The second part of that question is, what are the challenges that these students face? So that we can talk about solutions after this.
Can I start? Yeah. Joel is one of the students that we serve. P-TECH is a 9 to 14 school that enrolls students from New York City public schools. We have no test for admission, so we serve a very high needs population statistically. All of our students are of color. All of our students, about 80% of our students are low income. And P-TECH now is a model that's spread all over the world. We're in Australia in 7 different states. There are 60 replications, and so we serve a pretty wide range of students, but in particular we focus on low-income students, students of color, and students who wouldn't typically have access to careers in technology. So I think it's important that we try to fill a gap. Students who go to top schools, who go to competitive school districts, have more opportunities than students typically do in New York City public schools, so our focus really is on equity, not just inclusion. And I think too often we talk about diversity, which is, you know, a few people of color in a room full of white people. I'm not interested in diversity. I think inclusion is a step in the right direction, but really we need to go one step farther than inclusion to equity. And the second part of your question, what the challenges are. I think, to be really frank, the challenges students like Joel and students like the ones that we serve at P-TECH face are the interlocking systems of oppression, whether that comes in school systems or the tech industry, all across the economy and society, really. Racism, sexism, bigotry, prejudice. These are real problems that people face, and it's not simply, I have a lot of discussions with other educators about sort of deficit perspectives. And well, would there be more engineers of color if only they'd, you know, pull themselves up by their bootstraps, not to borrow your name. But I think that's really a misnomer. That's really just a red herring. It's not about the students, the young people, the talented engineers, or potential engineers who aren't getting jobs in the tech sector. The reality is people who look like me want to protect what they've long had and enjoyed in the economy. And there's only so much power and wealth to go around. And I think the real sort of elephant in the room in conversations like this that we too often shy away from is there are people who need to get out of the way. There are people like me who need to get out of the way. And so I'll end with that note.
Joel, can we also hear from you?
So I'd say some of the challenges, just to address that question, that students like me face on a daily basis is that we don't have role models who have realistic jobs. So a lot of my friends, a lot of my peers, they idolize these athletes, rappers, and those things are definitely fine. You can always idolize an athlete or a rapper or a musician. But what are the chances of you becoming an actual musician or an athlete in the neighborhoods that I come from? I currently reside in Brooklyn and East New York, and I know a lot of my friends around my age who they're not going to college. They're trying to become athletes, or they're trying to become a rapper, and it kind of sucks because I feel like the reason I ended up going to college was because my older brother went to Syracuse. And I was like, yeah, like I can do that because my brother did it. And that's someone I could relate to. That's someone, so like if everyone in the tech industry is not someone I can relate to, or someone that I can say, oh, he came from where I came from, and he went through what I went through, and he saw the neighborhood, because every other day, like right after this panel, I have to go back to East New York, and I had to live with the reality that a lot of my friends are gonna take different roads, and they're not, they don't have the guidance. So I feel like that's really the challenge. You just don't have that guidance and those role models that are in realistic states.
What about on this side?
Yeah, I think that, like, to build on what Will and Joel is saying, that tech doesn't exist in a bubble, right? Like, it is a reflection of, like, the power structures that exist in the world, and, like, those power structures are, like, built on racism, built on sexism, built on, built on oppression. And so for Dev Bootcamp, thinking about our model, like, we are a for-profit education company, and we're a for-profit education company that serves students who are mid or early career changers who see tech as a vehicle to opportunity. Honestly, they see like a job that they're in now that they may be dissatisfied in. They see an ability to make a significantly more money as a web developer than the thing that they're doing now. And so they come to our school because they want to learn that skill set really quickly. We're a 19-week program versus doing like a CS degree. And where we're struggling now and what we're trying to figure out is, like, how do you create equity in a program that costs $14,000 that, like, was built for and optimized by white and Asian, cisgendered, able-bodied, like, privileged men. And like, that's where we are, and that's my job, and that's what we're thinking about. And part of it is building partnerships with organizations to create a pipeline into it.
Let's do a pause on the solutions.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we will get there.
Yeah.
To kind of go off of what Letitia's saying, you know, a lot of our students that are underemployed, unemployed, or unhappily employed. And we're trying to emphasize that it's a growth mindset to get out of that, right? And I think mindset is the key word there, and that's something that our students struggle with, or something I think in general that's one of the barriers for people to enter the tech industry is, you know, they play on an app, they do something on the web, and they don't think that they have the ability to actually create that themselves. Someone somewhere else did that. So how do we infiltrate that mindset at an earlier phase in their lives? That's why it's fantastic that Joel had access to that. And that's, you know, I think that's why Code Academy is a fantastic resource for people to, you know, okay, I'm gonna give it a try and dabble, and then take the next step and enroll in other programs, or, you know, pursue a career that way. But I think the mindset challenge is a big one to really examine right now.
So we serve a pretty diverse group of students across, I think, any dimension. So I think we don't just look at, you know, we've talked today a lot about gender, we're talking about race. I think one of the other things is socioeconomic background. And so one of the things that we're able to do, because we're online, is serve populations of various income levels across the world and in different situations. So one of the things that we've spent a lot of time doing recently, work with a bunch of organizations that give access to technology education to refugees, for instance. So we've done a lot with an organization called Libraries Without Borders that enfranchises people in refugee camps in kind of Syrian areas to help provide them with access to technology. So when we think about diversity, you know, again, I think it's not just what is the diversity that we're seeking in New York as well, and how do we get classrooms that are better kind of filled with people that are from different backgrounds, but what is diversity around the world, and what is the meaning of that to people that might not have what we have as well?
So let's tackle one of those challenges at a time. I think one thing that was brought up, particularly by Brady and Joel, was this mindset and this possibility. Like, how do your programs really dig into specifically and strategically this idea that people from underrepresented backgrounds might not have those mindsets, might not even have those dreams?
So I went to PTech, the program that Will talked about, And one of the things that P-Tech does that's very interesting is mentoring. So we have every student at P-Tech is paired with a mentor from IBM. So IBM is our private partner, and then City Tech, which is a CUNY school, is our public partner, and that's where we get our degree from. But I vividly recall my freshman year when we had a mentoring event where I got to meet my mentor, and I was about 13, 14 at the time, and that just opened my mind up because he talked to me about, oh, you can do this, or you can do that, and at the time I was just thinking about going to school the next day. I wasn't really thinking about the future. I feel like I had a really closed mindset, or just like the possibilities of my future were very enclosed, and just that interaction with a professional, someone that I usually wouldn't have gotten that opportunity with, really opened up my mind.
Responses or additions?
I think too, it's also acknowledging there's a ton of community organizations out there that are providing great resources and kind of starting early on, because one company can't be everywhere. So for Galvanize, as we expand and come into markets like New York or wherever else we're going, we want to know who's already doing a tremendous job and how can we continue to support their efforts. So really partnering at the community and local level to drive that mindset and that ability for people who are interested in kind of going to the next level.
And specifically, how do you, again, when partnering with those organizations, drive that mindset?
Absolutely. I mean, it's exposure first and foremost, through events, through workshops, through getting to see examples and hearing stories, bringing high school students onto our campuses for hackathons, or to hear from entrepreneurs and hear how what was their pathway and what was their journey, and trying to make those one-on-one connections that really open your mind. So those are ways that have been successful for us up to date or to now.
The one really quick thing I'll add is removing barriers to entry. And so Joel talks about having a mentor come to his school in Crown Heights and visit him in his classroom. It's great to bring students to tech campuses. We do lots of field trips to IBM locations, but ultimately we as a tech community need to come to the people that we want to bring into the industry. You can't sit in an office on Madison Avenue and say, well, where are all the young people of color? Well, they're not on Madison Avenue. The reality is you need to go to East New York, you need to go to Crown Heights. We're a public school. We're free for students. The associate's degree that Joel just finished is free. And so we can't, I think the challenge that Letitia mentioned about these like really phenomenal programs that are very costly is an important issue to kind of solve, but ultimately, if you want more people from low-income backgrounds to get into the industry, you need to remove those barriers to entry. So it's about access, it's about opportunity, and free is a great motivator, right?
So that's actually a great transition into that barrier. How do you give access to education in technology?
So I think we're have been thinking along the same lines as Will mentioned and Joel mentioned as well. One of the things that we started with Codecademy is all the educational material that we offer is available for free to learners. So the company makes money basically, so we're for profit. All the content is free for anyone. So we think we can provide a kind of best-in-class learning experience that's not what you'd have in a classroom. So it's not someone standing up and lecturing to you, but it's interactive and engaging education that's better than what you get in a classroom. That's available for free. And then what we sell on top of that is kind of if you're a little confused or you need extra help, you can pay for access to tutors and whatnot. But for us, one of the first steps is making access available to everyone. I think even when I went to college, and when I went to college, a computer science professor stood up on the first day of class and said, there's 300 students in this classroom, 100 of you will drop over the next 2 weeks, 100 of you will fail, 20 of you will get A's, but you'll all be miserable. It's not the most welcoming lecture to an introduction to computer science, and I think that was in a place where I had great access to great professors, and I was still being discouraged from studying computer science. And so one of the big things that we thought of was how can we just make this open and accessible to everybody? So the first version of Codecademy had, the homepage had was just a terminal that asked you what your name was. Because programming shouldn't be intimidating, kind of these engaging careers of the future shouldn't be intimidating. Access should be available to everyone. And even when access is provided to everyone, it should be welcoming as opposed to kind of trying to scare you away.
Yeah, for us right now, it's building partnerships to create scholarships for students to come to our program. And we've done that in several different ways. Last year, we partnered with the White House Tech Hire Initiative to offer 34 scholarships for Chicago and NYC locations. We recently partnered with Facebook. Facebook donated $250,000 for women and people of color to attend our San Francisco location. And like those are, like that was 20 spots and 34 spots here, and it's still not enough. And so we're trying to figure out like what is a sustainable, like scalable way to provide more equity to our program. Because if all we ever do is sell a $14,000 program, all we're ever going to have is like the same populations that can afford that.
One more thing I would add on is that it's not just about educational opportunities, it's also professional opportunities. And so one part of our program at P-Tech is that Joelle's been my intern since October, had a previous intern working in social brand marketing at IBM, paid internships. It's unrealistic to expect young people from lower income backgrounds, or really any background, to take a lot of unpaid internships. Many industries, politics is one that comes to mind for me, expects a lot of unpaid volunteer labor to get into the industry. So I was a congressional intern when I was in college. At the end of the summer, I was broke and had to get a job to make money, right? And I think that's normal. Young people need to work to make money. A lot of internships are, well, you know, come and shadow me for a while. That's unrealistic. You're not going to diversify an industry if you're asking people to work for free. So at IBM, we provide about 50 internships every summer to P-Tech students, all of which are paid $12 to $14 an hour. That economic investment, I think, speaks to our commitment. You can't say, well, we really want to diversify tech, and we're hoping you'll come and join in our unpaid work opportunity. People don't work for free. None of us who are professionals would work for free, and I don't think we can ask that of young people and expect them to see this as an industry that welcomes them and that values their perspective and their energy and their talents.
I think one of the good points that was just raised is kind of about the different gradations on the way to a job that I think are oftentimes ignored. I think the media is obsessed now with this outcome of you go to a boot camp where you start learning online, and then 3 months later you get a job as a web developer making 6 figures. And even if you go to high school, college, get an associate's degree, it's not magic, right? And so those pathways along the way are important. And so, as an example, similar to IBM's, we have a program for our learners where they can become what we call advisors. So we think that one of the best ways to learn is to teach, and so we hire many of the students in our programs that are the highest performing learners and pay them a similar rate to what IBM does to help other students on the platform. So it's not just about kind of can you go from zero or unemployed to employed as a full-time software developer, but what experience can you get along the way to build a resume in a more accessible employment opportunity that still pays you and gives you experience.
There was a question at the very beginning that was also around how language is involved in access and is involved in persistence. Can we hear 2 or 3 panelists talk about that?
Wait, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
So there was a question from the beginning around how language that's used is also related to access and to persistence. As an example, Zach, you could talk about the curriculum and the strategies used there.
So we launched a program with Google and Donors Choose about 2 years ago, raised $1 million to focus on girls in US high schools learning technology skills. And one of the things that we spent a lot of time doing was, we're trying to really dedicate effort to making sure that our courses were kind of as gender neutral as possible. And I think even looking at an educational experience that's in some cases, written by a certain type of person, then kind of is written for people that look like or sound like or come from the same background as that person. And so I think when designing education, as Joel mentioned, it's about role models. It's about kind of thinking, even the cultural examples that are used, as someone referencing like Justin Bieber. Maybe that's relevant to a certain group of people, but not other groups. So I think thinking about really the entire package about how you're thinking about transmitting information to people and how that's communicated is important as well.
So I would say, because English is my second language, I was born in the Dominican Republic, so for a lot of years I did struggle trying to get rid of that stigma of my accent, or just kind communicating with my friends because I was forced to. Obviously, all my friends spoke English when I came here. As far as addressing that language barrier, I really like programming because a lot of people look at programming as like they shy away from it. They think it's really difficult. But when I started programming at PTech, I saw it was really manageable, and it just dealt with some simple things like math. Math is a language that I feel like every culture, every country uses around the world. So I really think that math and just like that STEM initiative is what is going to give access to everyone to what we're doing.
And then finally, in terms of solutions, and we had 2 questions around scale. And we also have a question from Letitia around scale. So how do you guys think about that right now? What's worked with scaling and what's still a challenge?
So I'll speak briefly. PTech as a model has expanded really rapidly. So we started as one school in Brooklyn in 2011. Now in the fall, we'll be in 60 different sites around the country, 2 in Australia, moving up to 12 in Australia next year. And so that's exciting for me to see the spread of technology education in this particular model that I've worked really closely with for the past 5 years. But I think it has to go farther than that. We're one school model that is not universally applicable. It's not the right approach for everyone. Not to be cliched, but I think what it really comes down to is each one teach one. You work in technology. If you're not mentoring a young person, if you're not working with your local schools, you need to be. And I think, frankly, the people in this audience who are at an event like this probably know that. But you have colleagues, you have friends. We run a large mentoring program at IBM. We have internship needs. We have students who are talented, who want to work, who need good opportunities. So what is your organization doing to host interns, to do mentoring events? I think within the tech ecosystem, there are lots of good opportunities, but there's not enough. And when it comes to scale, it really comes down to, are you doing work in this field? How are you sharing your work with others? Communication really is a big part of the issue when it comes to spreading your message. And in technology, your message can be disguised, can be hidden when it comes to language, and there are lots of language barriers around that. One of the things about coding that I've found as a teacher is really rewarding is that students who maybe have a hard time communicating can latch onto that and find ways to express themselves they may not have been able to find through the written word, through the spoken word. And so really, I guess just to summarize, it takes a village, and everyone has a responsibility, and it's not the kind of thing you can say, well, I trust IBM is going to take care of it. I trust Google or Microsoft or Codecademy is going to take care of it. The reality is that, we all have a role to play, and I think too often there's an assumption that someone else will do the work. That's not the case.
Yeah, so the coding bootcamp industry is fairly new. It's a little over 4 years old, and since the first one opened, Dev Bootcamp, a little over 4 years ago, there's been over 200 that have opened in the United States, over 400 across the world. And when thinking about scaling this particular type of program and thinking of the history of for-profit education as being particularly predatory for people from low socioeconomic groups, it's really concerning for those programs that have a focus on quality. I know Galvanize does. There are a lot of really great programs out there, and there are just as many, if not more, not so great programs. And so thinking about how to control for that, but then also thinking about the limitations of what we're doing and who we can serve and how we can partner with universities, how we can partner with community colleges in particular to bring this type of education or this mode of delivery to make it more accessible to people. That's definitely something that's on my mind.
And I definitely think that, just to piggyback off of what she was saying, public and private partnerships are definitely essential as far as scaling in this manner, because obviously the public institutions could offer the students an affordable education, but also those private partnerships like companies like Codecademy, companies like Google, IBM, could offer those students internships, experience that they probably wouldn't be able to get at early ages. So I'm only 18 years old, but at my age, I've already interned at IBM twice with marketing, and then this summer I'll be able to get some technical experience. But I feel like that wouldn't be possible because I'm only one student. But that wouldn't be possible if that private and public partnership didn't exist. So, and then I have a lot of peers who got those opportunities as well, and they're doing some amazing things.
To kind of go off of that with the partnerships as a solution that we've seen work, we've partnered with organizations like IBM, Google, Silicon Valley Bank, especially focusing around scholarships, removing those barriers to entry. But we've also taken it a step further in kind of reverse engineered education. So instead of saying, okay, this is the curriculum that we think students need to learn for them to be successful in the tech industry, we've kind of flipped that and instead gone to industry and said, what skills do these students need to have when they're leaving our programs? In that way, we are trying to take a step further to ensure that they are equipped. So for example, we're partnering with Airbnb, where Airbnb is going to sponsor a group of students who go through one of our data science programs, and they're going to guarantee the opportunity to then go and work with an Airbnb engineering team and put those skills to use in the real world. So I think really leveraging industry as a guide is what's going to set these students up for success, because there's a lot of noise out there, and there is the idea of I can do this for 3 months and then I'm going to become a web developer, but I think it's our responsibility as institutions to go the extra step and really set them up for success.
And granted time, Will brought up, and Letitia was like, yes, that there's a huge context surrounding education leading to inclusion and equity in technology. But hear just from like two people around how that frames the work of you guys as educators in diversifying tech.
So I'll give the white guy answer, but I hope I'm not like the last word on that as a straight white guy. I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher at P-Tech before I joined IBM, and so the first day of Joel's 9th grade year, I walked into the gym, and I think, I could be mistaken about this, but I think that was the first time I was the only white guy in a room, and it was very uncomfortable. I'm sure all the women and people of color know what that's like to be the only person who looks like you in a room, particularly in technology. That was the first time for me. When Joel started 9th grade, we were all in the gym. I was the only white guy on staff that year. We have a few more now. But that was eye-opening. And so in some way, I think everyone needs that experience, especially every white guy needs to find an opportunity to be the only white guy in a room. That made me think differently about my experience, about my privilege, about my opportunities thus far in life. From an educational perspective, really what it comes down to is calling out that privilege when you see it. New York City has some of the most segregated schools in the country. We have phenomenal educational institutions. Minerva spoke this morning about Bronx Science. Bronx Science is a great school. Stuyvesant is a great school. Stuyvesant has like 40 black kids in their freshman class. In a city that has millions, right? We have over 1 million students in our public schools. These schools that send the kids to the top colleges that are the most difficult to get into, that are the most competitive, disproportionately serve white and Asian students. And so we need to go all the way to the beginning. I mean, talk about housing policy, talk about educational policy. The fact is, students like Joel, students like the kids that we serve at P-Tech, have been systematically denied these opportunities. And so we can't blame tech companies ultimately by themselves for not employing a more diverse base of employees, because the reality is educational institutions are putting barriers into place, are putting obstacles up much before the hiring begins. Now that doesn't mean we as IBM are off the hook, or Google is off the hook, or any of these other big companies should be let off the hook, but the reality is we need to do much more, and our solutions need to be much bigger than limiting to technology. Educationally speaking, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you need to blow up the high school system and start over, but the reality is too many times there are these systems. SATs are a good example. Everyone thinks, well, when I was in high school, I did well in the SATs. I thought, oh, yes, that means I'm smart. That means I deserve the opportunities that I get. The reality is that means I'm a white guy whose parents have master's degrees, right? The best predictor of your SAT score is your parents' educational status, not your intellect. IQ tests were originated as a way to segregate, right? To discriminate. And so these supposedly objective measures are not objective. Historically, they've been instituted by white people to stop the access opportunity of people of color. And I think we need to kind of come to grips with the fact that what we think of as objective, what we think of as colorblind, is not. And to the extent that we look at these objective kind of figures, we're doing a disservice to the people who our objective systems say are not quite good enough. And the reality is, those systems that we've created to identify and to set up boundaries are the real problem.
Yeah, and I know that this panel is focused on the pipeline, but I don't want to completely absolve companies from this, because when you think about like the people who are going into the tech industry, the people who are getting jobs as web developers, and you look at the attrition rate of women and the fact that it's double that of men in the industry, and it's equally as high for people of color, like there is a clear problem like within the industry in our ability to like maintain an inclusive culture and keep people of color in the industry. Like, what's the point of like putting people into the pipeline just to have them leak out at the end? And so at Dev Bootcamp, we like try and focus on having a holistic curriculum. And so we teach tech, but we also have this engineering empathy curriculum that we created, which focuses on communication, but also self-awareness, and like many forms of self-awareness. So we talk about like resilience and grit, but we also talk about like what is your place in like the larger power structure of Dev Bootcamp in the tech industry and in the world. And so we have conversations about institutional oppression. We have conversations about bias. We have conversations about privilege. We have conversations about microaggressions, because if we are going to continue to, yes, we want to dismantle privilege, but we are still reinforcing it. We realize that. So if we are going to continue to provide opportunities to people, then we want for them to at least have some self-awareness when they're getting into the industry, so that they're creating a better industry for everyone.
I have time for maybe, I'll ask the panelists to stay a little bit in case you want to talk with them. I want to switch gears one more time, and this time it's, okay, we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about what you guys have been doing that works and what doesn't work, but now, like moving forward, what's the most promising or optimistic thing that you've seen? What policies or programs or indications from industry leaders have you seen that gives you hope for that future?
I think the industry has changed a lot over the past couple of years, thanks to pressure from a lot of people on diversity, I think at every level, right? So companies are starting to admit that there's a problem. If you look at the fact that now most Silicon Valley tech companies are starting to release diversity statistics, which are pretty shameful, and the media is pressuring them, and citizens are pressuring them, and their own workforce is pressuring them. So I think companies are starting to realize they have a responsibility. And when you look at the pipeline, I'm super encouraged by the fact that that skills of the future, like computer science and technology, are starting to gain traction in every school, not just specialized schools around the world, and that specialized school models like PTech are gaining traction everywhere, right? So I think 3 or 4 years ago, less than half of the 50 states recognize computer science as science for graduation requirements, and that number now is much, much higher, and I think that's leading to an increase in the number of computer science teachers, an increase in the number of computer science classes, and an increase in the accessibility of a computer science and technology-oriented education that will hopefully result in a more diverse workforce in the future.
Let's have one more hope for the future.
So there's also this scholarship that my friends just recently got called the STEM Initiative. So if you're in any field, because obviously college costs us a lot of money, and that's like the highest debt in the United States, student loans. But my friend Kevon and Marco both just got this scholarship called the STEM Initiative that's gonna help them pay for college when they're going away now next semester, and they're both going into software engineering. And the scholarship just, I'm very optimistic about it, because it particularly focuses on students who science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if you're in any of those fields, so that can include accounting, anything really in technology, science, and it's really interesting because a lot of students struggle to pay for college. A lot of people are discouraged to go to college because of how much it costs, or to go to a good institution like Harvard or MIT or things like that. And I feel like that just really makes me optimistic because it is a solution for another problem that also creates a barrier for a lot of students.
So thank you to the audience for contributing. Thank you for all the panelists for contributing. And we're very excited about how together we can all build that empathy, build that accessibility, and build that pipeline into careers for technology so we have not only diversity and inclusion, but equity as well. Thank you.
Thank you.